Yo, 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 welcome back to the Fantasy Football Pizzeria Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Succardi. With me, as always, is my co-host, John Marler.
It's two cups.
You can find me on Twitter at FFPizzaman and on Instagram at Fantasy Football Pizzeria. And you can find John at Life Never Lost Everywhere. Today, for our episode, we're going to go over the breaking news, our pepperoni and pineapple of the week. Again, that is our highlight and our low light of the week, to put it simply. We're going to go over a little bit of the sit and starts and some pickups. We're going to give our pizza a review with our player comparison. Going to talk a little bit about the top 5 offensive leaders in yards. Kind of an interesting thing to see week to week. Discuss our song of the week a little bit, and then end with a closing quote with me playing those hand drums over there. So that'll be pretty awesome. So you're pretty excited about that. So just to let you guys know how everything's going to break on down, just so we can get on started and enjoy this episode.
How are you doing today emotionally, Zach?
Emotionally, I'm cool, man. I swam some laps today after work, so that definitely helped. And then I did some sauna, so that was awesome. It's always a good kind of a way to get my exercise in and kind of do my thing. And yeah, I mean, and then after that, I just came straight here. So I feel, I'm feeling good today. How about you, man?
Oh, pretty good, man. I disappointed a family member that I love quite a bit by not honoring a request that they had, because it put me in a tough spot, I feel. So it's tough when you have expectations that they want out of you. Mm-hmm. And for whatever reasons, it didn't feel right after thinking about it and praying about it for a while. And so it was tough, but I think I made the right decision.
Cool. Do you want to talk about a little bit of like what exactly it was sort of pertaining to, or not so much?
I think it would take too much time out of this podcast to get into it. But yeah, basically that they wanted something out of me. I felt, even though they had good intentions, I think it was kind of exploiting me being a part of the family because of it. Even though, again, they had good intentions for reasons outside of me. And there's a lot of disorganization and bad communication, and it was still tough for me to work through. And there's still part of me that wanted to go out of my way to do it, but it just didn't feel right.
Hey, you know what, man? I think that's important when you're really taking care of yourself, man. It takes a lot of guts to speak up and just say, hey, I need to do this for myself. It's not that I don't love you anymore, any less, anything like that. So I think that's, that's a positive takeaway from it, man.
Yeah, I think it kind of helped me realize it's easy to kind of, not easy, but none of it's really easy, but I often try to use other things in life to distract myself from kind of unresolved issues that have kind of been around for years that we've never really been able to address. Mm-hmm. And this was one of those circumstances that brought up a lot of those unresolved things that I've tried talking about, but never really got to a point where either of us felt comfortable about it. And I kind of think that we need to resolve those things, or at least talk about them before I can kind of move forward.
Definitely, man. I mean, it's there's really something to be said about communication and conversation, especially amongst family. I mean, gosh, I know I can communicate a certain way with 90% of folks out there, friends and such, and then family, it's a little different. Sometimes it's a part of that 90%. Other times it's that actual 10% that you're just like, fuck it, I'm going in this way, or I can and can't go into these certain areas. But what I think is cool is that you prayed about it, and then as far as those things to kind of take your mind from it, enter fantasy football, enter pizzeria.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of communication and family, I hear a lot of players say that their team is like a family. And Melvin Gordon has supposedly been communicating with his family.
Yes. That is one of the things that is breaking today as far as news. It's pretty much one of the main and only things, which is exciting. He has been, there were reports, or I should say are reports, that he is going to report himself this Thursday. He won't be playing this week, but likely he'll be playing the following week. So that's really good for anyone who has Melvin Gordon.
Do you believe it? Because I felt like last year with Le'Veon Bell, there were so many reports throughout the season saying, "Oh, he'll be back after he'll be there by week 1." Week 1 came and left, and then it was like, "Oh yeah, week 2 or 3," and then they're like, "Oh well, okay, well he'll definitely be back after week 4," and then they're like, "Well, he'll be back after his bye week. That way he still gets credit for the season," and then he was gone the whole season. I'm not saying it's necessarily the same thing, but how much confidence do you have that he really will be back starting tomorrow?
I believe it because the internet told me to, and because all the normal web pages and links and Instagram pages that I view on a daily basis told me so. It seems to be likely. I don't know. I've not been in personal contact with him.
No.
I mean, he's seen him.
He hasn't DM'd you?
No, he hasn't yet. No,
what about BM'd you?
Definitely not. No, Boston Market, which is awesome.
Yeah, the chicken,
dude. The chicken and the corn. I know this is a pizzeria podcast, but
the bowel movements.
I mean, the whole. Yeah, I mean, you can go either way with that. But no, that'll be exciting. He's a top 10 player when he's healthy.
Well, does this mean, so let's say I have Justin Jackson on my team and there's someone out that I want to pick up, is now a good time to drop him if I need that slot since Melvin Gordon's coming back, or do I still hold on to him?
And let me be clear on one thing. Not a top 10 player. I'd say he's more of a top tier player, and I'd say more of a top, a top 12 running back. So, and RB1. Justin Jackson, he's such a talent. Someone who's really, really fun to watch. Especially in this upcoming game, this would be the 1 week I would really be excited to play him as a flex. But I would definitely just sort of have a wait and see approach. But likely, if you're needing to drop anyone on your bench, he'd be more of the third wheel from just what we've seen. And
do you try to take advantage of people who may not be keen to this information? Do you try to, if you have Austin Eckler, do you try to sell him high now? Because is his role, assuming his role was going to diminish when Gordon comes back?
Likely it's too late to sell him high just because of how fast everything is updated and people know this sort of news. Unless, you work today or you just weren't paying attention or you're doing things like that, which is very likely in a lot of home leagues. It's something where I would hold on to him because he has value at a flex play. I mean, even last year, he was such a great asset to have, and someone who I would be comfortable keeping as my flex, even with Melvin Gordon coming back. Of course, you want to see how the trends play out, but definitely something I would hold on to.
Could you use the opposite to your advantage then? If the Eckler owner is thinking, "Oh crap, Gordon's coming back, he's not going to have as big a role," do you try to trade and get Eckler?
I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't be too concerned because if you've not had any issue to this point, if you're not, it's not something I would suggest. I would rather have one. I'd rather have one or the other, unless I drafted them both.
All right, awesome. You know who I dropped this past week?
Who's that?
The same person you dropped.
Oh yeah,
Antonio Brown.
I was so happy to drop him. It actually was like a liberation thing where I was like, oh, good. I hate having these fucking it just dead weight on your bench.
Not me, man. I just had this anger towards Jerry Rice because he told me to draft him. If you listen to a few podcasts ago, I told the story of how I met Jerry Rice, and very briefly, one sentence interaction, but he told me to draft Antonio Brown, and I was just thinking of all the players that I could have had instead of him. But in any case, we won't recap everything that has gone on with him, but as of a couple hours ago, there's articles out there after Antonio Brown had tweeted saying, "I'm done with the NFL," and then there's reports of him enrolling into school and going back to school. Now there's new articles again saying that he's still interested in playing for the NFL, and they're exploring different teams. And I haven't heard anything official in terms of the NFL or the Players Association in terms of any rulings that have happened to him and how quick they'll take action, and then the whole commissioner's exemption list. But in any case, do you think Antonio Brown will play this year?
I don't think he'll play this
anymore.
Year. I don't, just because of all the things that have happened here recently with him getting released, and the recent news, whether true or false, how it plays out legally, all that hoopla, not something I can predict. I mean, for Dynasty, of course, you're going to hold on to him. I mean, at this point, I don't know how you could even trade him for really getting any sort of value. And he's talented enough where I would still hold on to him. Same goes for like Andrew Luck, even though he's retired in a Dynasty setting. Hold on to him, especially in like a Superflex league. You never know with a player like that. So,
if I told you that some team signs him this year, what team do you think is even would be the most likely to actually sign him and play him this year?
Sign him and play him this year?
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, even though Seattle said no, I don't know why they're coming to mind. Let me think. NFC. I mean, it may take an injury if he,
49ers would be interesting.
49ers would be interesting. I mean, they really don't have a true number one. I mean,
it seems like they don't have enough drama that's non-football related. So
yeah, they're kind of
all their drama is just injuries and football stuff.
Exactly, yeah.
They could use some of it.
Exactly, running backs and stuff like that. Yeah.
So, well, in terms of other injuries, one of the big headliners was Saquon Barkley got injured this week. I had him in 2 leagues, still have him in 2 leagues, but that was definitely painful. 1, because he didn't score a lot this week, and then 2, most reports say 4 to 8 weeks with a high ankle sprain. I just keep thinking back. Do you remember when Sam Bradford had high ankle sprains, and it seemed like it would last the whole season?
Dude, what didn't that guy have? But yeah.
And I know it can vary from player to player, but whenever I hear high ankle sprain, it makes me nervous because it can vary so much. Like some players, it could be the rest of the season, and hoping that's not the case for him. But did you have him in any leagues? Were you affected by it?
Somewhat. I have him in 1 dynasty league. So yes, the answer to that would be yes. I don't want to say I expected it or anything, but I mean, he's such a dynamic player with running backs, injuries. I mean,
being used so much.
I've seen worse injuries as far as, what could really happen. I mean, I guess we all have. I guess since I just have him also on the 1 dynasty league, I'm not as it's not as crucial because, I'm going to hold on to him, yada, yada. But definitely, with an injury like that, it'll be interesting to see how well the Giants are playing. I think based on how well that they actually do would also give you a good idea of when he may come back. Because I think their bye week is week 10. It's definitely one of the later ones. And so, you want to kind of keep a close eye to that. But either way, I mean, if he's playing, if he's healthy, you're always playing him easy, obviously. But,
and he's saying the right things in terms of saying he wants to get back as soon as possible, and they're getting a second opinion, which, I mean, it's good, but they said that Drew Brees was getting a second opinion, Roethlisberger was getting a second opinion, everyone's getting second opinions.
Those are old mofos, though. I mean, this dude's 22.
Right. I mean, hopefully he doesn't push it and then get re-injured from a fantasy perspective. From a personal perspective, whatever.
Just an ankle. He's a millionaire. No. I mean, obviously we don't want anyone to get injured. It sucks.
I mean, not anybody.
Well, we'll just stick to football and, and pizza.
Yeah, no fantasy.
Be good to your local pizzeria.
Yeah,
pizza man.
I mean, Terrell Suggs, I wouldn't mind.
Terrell Suggs, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm a Steeler fan. I can see that. That T-sizzle hate.
In any case, let's get into our pepperoni of the week. And again, this was the awesome player of the week who may have done better than expected or just gave us a good performance. Who is your pepperoni player of the week?
So my pepperoni player of the week is Rex Burkhead, running back for the New England Patriots. He played against my sad-ass Jets. He was 6 for 69 and a touchdown, which in half PPR came to about 15.9 fantasy points. Really why I chose him was it was early Sunday morning. You heard about James White. He was making a baby, and that baby was coming out.
Oh, okay. So and, he wasn't making the baby during the game.
No. I mean, who knows? I mean, I
at least not with the mother of his child.
No, yeah, definitely. No, he his wife was giving birth. God
Yeah.
bless them. It's awesome.
I was gonna say Belichick's really lightening up after Antonio Brown.
Yeah, no, it's not like
Yeah, you want to go
hedonism.
fornicate, go for it.
So when I found that out and I thought they were playing my sad ass Jets, I thought Rex Burkhead. I mean, especially with Antonio Brown not being there. So I was just, excited to have a Sunday morning kind of early, like a quick start that usually can bite me in the ass when I make those, those last minute decisions. So this one actually paid off. I mean, it wasn't amazing, but as far as like someone I had in my flex, it was definitely someone I was like, fuck yeah, man, this fucking, homeboy, I have him on my dynasty team that I have Saquon Barkley. Not that he's any kind of replacement. Trust me. But
They're basically the same.
yeah, well, yeah, of course, basically the same. No, but I mean, it does kind of help me go. Okay, it was definitely kind of went into a little bit why he's my pepperoni of the week.
Awesome. Yeah, he was available in multiple leagues Sunday morning for me, and I picked him up in 1 or 2 leagues as well. But I didn't play him, but just had him just in case.
Still someone good to hold on to. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Who knows? James White could be making more babies.
Yeah, hey, who knows? I mean, again, we're not with James White currently, or we don't know any of his whereabouts.
And you have a stat written down, right, for the record for the most babies born from a single NFL player in a season.
Yes, I do, and it's Antonio. Let's see, Cromartie, right? That's that dude's name. That somehow got your computer to wake up or something.
Nice.
Yeah, he has like a ton of kids, but good for him.
Awesome.
Yeah, he's definitely. I didn't think he'd make his way into this podcast, but here we are.
Well, my pepperoni player of the week is a redemption story.
Oh, awesome! Love these.
This player was my pineapple of the week 1, which is the biggest disappointment. So he has come back full circle and is now the pepperoni, a great player of this week, which is Mike Evans. Week 1, he had 28 yards on 2 catches, and this week he got 41 fantasy points. So he was definitely the difference maker for me in a league where I was able to win. So I was very grateful for that. So thank you, Mike.
Oh yeah, he was great. I mean, shit. I mean, up until this point, it's been Chris Godwin in Tampa Bay, but this week Mike Evans definitely represented. I mean, bringing 41 points to the table. That's like 4 players. I mean, if you're in a pretty good spot, in some cases.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of confidence. We'll see going forward, but I have him in our league where we have like 5 flex spots, so I got to play him anyway.
There you go. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I love the flex.
All right. Who was your pineapple or crappy player of the week, Zach?
Pineapple of the week for me is Darwin Thompson. He's running back for the Kansas City Chiefs. Similar to the Rex Burkhead, in that Sunday morning there was news that Darrell Williams, another running back on the Kansas City Chiefs, was going to be starting. Darrell Williams, not Damian Williams. See,
Right.
I even fucked it up there. But
Yeah, Damian's like the main starter.
Yeah, the main starter.
Since Kareem Hunt left last year.
And Darrell Williams is the player that I think about having on my squad just to trade to someone to see if they think it's Damian Williams.
I bet.
And they're tired or they're drunk or they're stoned or something. Mm-hmm. And you know what? That'd be fair. Motherfuckers should click on it and actually see. So Darwin Thompson, back to just to the pineapple. I chose him because, you were hearing all week that he was going to possibly get a lot more touches, yada, yada, with LaShawn McCoy even having his own injury. I believe his was like close to an ankle or an ankle. I don't know exactly. I don't care to really look it up, but we all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we already discussed how we
yeah.
think about them personally.
Exactly. yeah. So really just in the same fashion that I had him on my bench all week, and I was like, all right, cool. I still think he's an awesome player to have in Dynasty, and he is a dynamic player. It's just really the way the Chiefs roll is just whichever running back is going to be the RB1, that's the one that you're always going to want to go with. Which one that is week to week, who the fuck knows? But in some cases, you can throw them in your flex if you have like 100 flexes and shit, or even just a couple more than like usual. But that's why I chose him as my pineapple. Kind of a theme with the whole picking up, dropping on the Sunday morning.
Awesome. Well, your story makes me think of a trade I attempted last year. David Johnson, who's the name of the running back for the Arizona Cardinals. The Steelers also had a player named David Johnson who was a fullback, but in ESPN was listed as a running back. And I tried to, there was a guy in one league that I was in who was a crazy, like, wanted every Arizona Cardinals player. Mm-hmm. His first, like, I think he drafted Larry Fitzgerald in like second or third round.
Whoa.
David Johnson first, and it was just going down the line, right? Trying to get everyone. And so I was like, but he didn't get David Johnson. So I tried to trade the Steelers fullback, but listed as a running back, David Johnson, and he declined. So he wasn't that dumb.
Well, honestly, dude, if people aren't going to click on the freaking name and they hit accept, that's on them. I think there's a Mike Thomas out there.
You gotta try, yeah.
There's there's definitely, like you said, there's the David Johnson. Mm-hmm. It's probably one or two more pretty good ones that we're just not thinking of, but it's not a strategy that we're suggesting. But
there's probably a JoJo Smith-Schuster.
If you're in a league with a lot of people who be drinking or working late nights or something, excuse me, pardon me, then hey, it's on them. But that was just sort of a kind of funny tie with the pepperoni and the pineapple of the week.
Awesome. Well, a quick thing of my pineapple player of the week. We already discussed him a little bit, which was Saquon Barkley. Had him in a few leagues of mine and got 5.7 points. Again, out at least 4 to 8 weeks is what the estimate is now. So that was a bummer and definitely was a negative difference maker in a few games for me.
No, hey, I totally understand. I totally felt that.
Well, let's get into our sits, starts, and pickups of the week. Who do you got listed for quarterbacks?
So we're just going to name a couple players here. We're not going to name any of the obvious ones. That's kind of not, that's not going to do anyone any good. Just kind of guys to keep an eye out for. We'll make mention if it's for this week, possibly the upcoming week. But just some things to kind of keep in mind and do a little extra research on them and just kind of keep a close eye. So with that said, at quarterback, we have Jacoby Brissett versus the Raiders. I think he'd be an excellent start if you had to stream, especially against the Raiders in Indianapolis. So
I didn't see what his final stat line, but he was doing pretty good last week. He had gotten 15 completions in a row, something like that.
Dude, he won me my Superflex League, which I had Andrew Luck in. Thankfully, I was able to get him as well early before the season. But yeah, no, he would be someone that with his just with that offense, with the offensive line. Even with T.Y. Hilton being injured, keep an eye out for Paris Campbell. He is a wide receiver for the Indianapolis Colts. He definitely came through, and especially in a Superflex kind of league where you're always going to start your quarterback there. I was well pleased, but definitely someone to keep an eye out for against the Raiders. My second quarterback, this is kind of, I don't know, obvious, but is Daniel Jones versus the Redskins. They're playing at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, and all the fans there, it's gonna be huge just because it's a division game, rival, and he had such a great week 3 that there's just so much excitement despite the injury to Saquon.
And Redskins. Short week. They played Monday night, and their defense struggled. So if those things all contribute, they could also help Daniel Jones.
Yeah, no, good call. Fucking Taylor Gabriel for 3 touchdowns. Come on, dude, get the fuck out of here. Where are you at, Anthony Miller? David Montgomery, my homie. So those are the 2 quarterbacks that I would just suggest if you have to stream to stream this week, and even just to have. Honestly, to keep an eye on Daniel Jones. Has that running ability that we haven't really seen too much. He did score, 2 touchdowns on foot.
Yeah.
It showed there, but just something to keep an eye out for. And then for running backs, we have Wayne Gallman, running back for the New York Giants. They're of course playing the Redskins. I went to Giants. I saw one of their practices when I was back in Jersey this summer. And I actually saw a lot of Wayne Gallman. And
Yeah, I remember you talking him up to early to me, and it was one of those players. It's like, how many people remember his name?
yeah, I mean, of course, I was looking at Saquon and checking him out. It was just so fucking cool to be there and see him. But as far as the eye test, Wayne Gallman definitely was representing. I mean, yeah, it was practice. It was fucking pre fucking season. You know, it was it was training camp, so it wasn't OTAs, but it definitely, he was still an exciting player to watch. I mean, just sitting there in the stands, and in my mind in fantasy, I'm like, you know, that'd be funny if he had some sort of role where, you know, he kind of paid off and it was someone that was like, I saw this fucking dude, you know. And again, I'm not signing off on him. I'm not saying, you know, he's anything close to Saquon, anything like that.
More just the opportunity.
Yeah, the opportunity, and he, you know, as far as the eye test, he did pass it. I mean, again, it was fucking summer and they had fucking shorts on, but you know, so you know,
Yeah.
take it for what you will.
But he played a little bit last year, and I can see him wanting to build on that. So
Yeah, and if the Giants with Daniel Jones can bring it together with Evan Ingram, with getting Golden Tate back, with
Shepard looked good.
Shepard, even what was his name? Darius Slayton, their rookie. He looked good even. So just to go over that as well, Jay Ajayi and Spencer Ware are two players that potentially could maybe be signed by the New York Giants to be their running back. I don't know if it would be a timeshare, probably would be, but they're names that I have heard in the past 24 hours as far as free agent running backs that could potentially have a role. So, I mean, if you're in a deeper league or you just need you just need it, you know, you're
Want to get ahead of the curve.
Yeah,
You got some player that's sitting there not doing much.
exactly, and an extra bench spot. You know, I mean, again,
Would you drop Dion Lewis for one of these guys?
Nah, I wouldn't.
Okay.
I mean, maybe. It's really such a boring question, but I mean, again, if you hear any news by it, you know, I would look to pick one of these guys up based on if, you know, either of them do indeed get signed. And then my last running back would be Darrell Williams. We mentioned him earlier, not Damien. I don't know why every time I try to think of his name, it even psychs me out. I don't know why. It's just
Too similar.
yeah. I guess so. Here I am.
Even when I see them on the field, I'm like, which one is it?
Living example of that the earlier strategy about getting the guy. But yeah, no. So someone I would consider pick up again. It's at Detroit. I wouldn't suggest really playing them unless Damian Williams is indeed out, and I'd play Darrell Williams as a flex player. I wouldn't really be too excited, but someone again because he's for he plays for Kansas City Chiefs that I would definitely look to add.
All right, and who do you got for a wide receiver?
Wide receiver, DJ Chark against the Broncos. Again, not the best matchup this week, but just how him and Gardner Minshew have been connecting. You just can't really deny it. And again, it's something that I wouldn't say go and play him this week unless you had injuries, a smaller roster, bigger league, anything, extra flex, things like that. Although a great player and someone I'm excited to have in dynasty format. And my next wide receiver is somewhat similar of a breakdown with Philly Dorsett playing at Buffalo. Not someone I really would suggest to play unless, again, you were sort of desperate or had a lot of flex spots. More of a boomer kind of bust kind of thing here, but they have a really good defense there in Buffalo up to this point.
And he's wide receiver for the Patriots, and Antonio Brown's gone, and Edelman's hurt, so the opportunity should be there, right?
Yeah. I played him in one of my dynasty leagues. He did, he had a good week, so I was happy that actually sort of worked out. And then lastly, I have Golden Tate. He was suspended the first 4 games. He'll be back week 5, which is especially with the excitement behind the New York Giants and Daniel Jones.
So pick him up now before everyone tries to get him next week.
Yeah, if he is at all available, obviously you definitely go and grab him. Even though you have to hold him for a week, it's still going to be worth it. And then if you drafted him or anything like that, then look to definitely play him as a flex at least to start it out.
Do you think DJ Chark is like a shark that produces EDM music?
I don't know. There's a lot of DJs. DJ Moore, DJ Shark,
DJ Les.
Yeah, I mean, as far as yeah, I mean, yeah, they could definitely do a little like road thing, and
then they have like DJ battles and they diss each other.
yeah, they could show up at like malls and like NASCAR events and do this, like try to get the DJ Shark, DJ Moore show on the road.
Yeah. And then after they diss each other, Will Disley shows up.
Will Disley, yeah, that's a really good segue, man.
Yeah.
I was like, where are you going with
It
this?
was really natural.
Yeah, that was pretty smooth. So for my tight end, as far as pickups, if you haven't already, get Will Disley. He's been, he's had a great connection with Russell
Numbers.
Wilson. Even in that bullshit last minute touchdown, which helped me out. So,
Yeah.
I mean, power to it.
So tight end for the Seahawks.
Seahawks, yep, and they just traded Nick Vannett, who was more of a blocking tight end, but still it clears out a little bit more space, so that's always positive. And then lastly on this list for tight end is Chris Herndon. Pretty much the same reason for, as Golden Tate, that he'll be back from suspension, actually week 5, because the Jets, we have a bye week this week. Again, someone I think that, once Darnold comes back could be a solid ad for half PPR.
Awesome. And if you listened to us last week, you'd be even more ahead of the curve. Zach had mentioned him. But again, a good tight end pickup.
Cool. And then lastly, just for the pickups, defense this week, Colts versus Raiders, and then Chargers at Dolphins. Kind of obvious ones with the Chargers at Dolphins. I mean, any
team against the Dolphins.
Any team practically.
Giants.
Sure. I mean, honestly, I was cracking up this last week looking at at all like the leaders of each category, and when I saw the defense special teams, that the fucking Jets were the number 1 defense special teams because of they had those touchdowns on special teams, and all they're playing. As far as like anyone playing that matchup, no one would ever unless you had to.
Right.
And it's just so funny, and it just goes to show, especially with the defense special teams, how volatile that can be.
Awesome, man. Well, let's get into our pizza review. And our pizza of the week this week was Little Caesars. We got 2 pizzas. One, they were both stuffed crust, so stuffed with cheese. Pizza 1 was our classic, pepperoni and black olives. Pizza 2 was pepperoni, black olives, mushrooms, and jalapenos. And both pizzas had extra sauce and were well done. What is your evaluation of this pizza, Zach?
Well, thank you for asking. This was a surprise when I came here and you had Little Caesars. I don't think I've had Little Caesars since probably like early 2000s.
Oh yeah, nice. So it's a good nostalgic comeback then.
Yeah,
it's probably much different now though than back then.
Yeah, I mean almost 20 years ago. It was. Yeah, I remember they had it in Kmart. They had like this little eatery there.
Yeah, I remember that.
And they would this Kmart in Paramus, New Jersey, on Route 17. They had a Little Caesars, and I remember getting the slices, and they were huge. They were huge slices. They were really good. I really liked them, and I kind of understood the kind of pizza that it was, and I just remember really liking them. However, to this Little Caesars, when I saw it, I thought to myself, all right, it's not going to be like that. I kind of already got that vibe from being out here and seeing all the
they've changed a lot. If you haven't had Little Caesars in the past few years,
yes,
they've completely changed their format of the pizzas and what they offer. And I will give them kudos. Their application on iOS and Android is pretty well developed, is smooth. Pretty simple and straightforward to order stuff. They have a little like vending machine essentially.
Cool.
For if you place your order, they'll give you a code and you can type in that code and just pick it up and take off, and you don't have to engage with humans, which is, one reason why we play fantasy football and not just play football ourselves.
Yeah. No, you know what? I definitely limit the amount of times I engage with humans, but I definitely save it for when I have to get pizza, because sometimes, even though the app, I mean, which is really important. I mean, shit, you want things to be clear when you're ordering them, especially on pizza.
Right.
So, no, I mean.
And then, of course, decent prices. But in any case, sorry, I distract.
No.
What is your evaluation of this pizza?
So really, I only had the pepperoni and black olives. I didn't want to fuck with the mushroom and jalapeno. It just, I don't know, didn't really appeal to me. As far as the toppings, they were bland for pepperoni and black olives. The cheese was too much, and it was very flavorless. Like I really couldn't taste anything with it.
Yeah, and you're like you'd mentioned with Papa Murphy's, you don't want a ton of cheese on your pizza.
Yeah, I like me the more sauce ratio. I mean, of course, I like cheese. I don't like
You
a
need
shit
cheese,
ton.
right?
Yeah. It's like some of these places just put so much on, and especially really the ratio to the sauce is where I kind of go, what the fuck? Because cheese is good, but in this case, it just tasted so bland. And for the sauce on this pizza, it was a decent amount. Didn't really add any usual punch that sauce typically does. So it was kind of like, eh. And the crust, for me, it was weak. It was too much cheese for me. I love the crust. I love bread.
You're not a stuffed crust fan, in general.
No, I'm not at all. I mean, the idea is cool, sure, but I love bread, and just like all that cheese just isn't for me. It kind of ruins it a little bit. Especially like with extra sauce, or if you have like a dipping sauce, like extra marinara, pizza sauce, whatever, you can dip that crust in. It shit's delicious, man. So the cheese and the crust, it's more of a novelty to me. But I thought it was cool just to have, man, just to do with the podcast and to just, enjoy it. I mean, I still ate like 3 or 4 fucking slices. I just, unlike me, really didn't eat the crust, which is usually a no-no for me in my world.
And what player would you compare this pizza to? Or what NFL thing would you compare this pizza to?
Yeah, as far as the player comparison, I'm going to go with my New York Jets. It's just such a bullshit, boring fucking game. And, I mean, I can't expect much from Luke Falk. But
You got Le'Veon Bell, man.
Yeah, Le'Veon Bell. And I'm not putting it on him either. Just the offensive line and just, I don't know, how just that game went. It was very disappointing, and it just... I don't know. It seemed good. Like, it was like, cool, the Jets are playing. All right. Cool, there's pizza in front of me. Oh, this is awesome. And then as I'm eating it, I'm like, yeah, it's pizza, okay. And I'm like, okay, the Jets are playing Sunday. This is cool. I love Sundays, yada, yada. But I honestly, that they scored 14 points, I don't care how they did. That's cool. So, the nostalgia trigger, I guess, is kind of cool with it. With the whole Kmart story, eating it there. But as far as this pizza player comparison, it's my New York Jets.
And how would you compare this pizza to last week's pizza, which was the Papa Murphy's, where you bring it home and bake it yourself?
That pizza wins like 100 out of 100 times. Like, I mean, gosh, this is one of the worst pizzas I've had. Honestly, in fucking such a long time, man. In fact, not for this podcast, I would have declined politely when I saw that pizza, and then afterwards been like, all right, let me take care of business here, and I would have made it happen somewhere.
I understand what you're saying, but I feel like you wouldn't have eaten that many slices if you really felt that way.
Yeah, you'd think not, man. But I just kept looking at it. I'm like, this is going to taste good eventually,
Maybe
right?
it has MSG or something that just like got you, temporarily addicted to it, and you just kept rolling with it.
I don't know. I think it was just pizza, and I don't want to say taking one for the team for the podcast.
I mean, I could understand that for 1 or 2 slices, but
Yeah, I guess you're right. But they were smaller slices. We're not talking like a New York slice here, where it's like half a fucking pie. What about you, John? What are your thoughts on this? On this Little Caesars pizza.
Fair enough. So for me, the toppings, I especially liked. I know you didn't have the mushrooms, but I really liked the mushrooms on this pizza. Generally speaking, it seems like pizza places for the most part will either do kind of like the fresh, like mushrooms that look like you got them from the grocery store and chopped them up and put them on the pizza, or they're like canned and super rubbery. These were canned and super rubbery, and I loved them. There's something about that texture that I just really like about mushrooms. So I really enjoyed that. I'd agree with you in terms of the other toppings. I'd say they were just all right. The pepperoni didn't have a super strong flavor. I didn't have the olives on there, and the jalapenos were just okay, maybe even less than okay. Cheese, I think I'm opposite of you. I like a ton of cheese on pizza, regardless of where it is or where I get it from. So I enjoyed that large amount. Sauce, I also thought, again, we had mentioned we ordered it with extra sauce, and well done. I thought it was a perfect amount of sauce, not too much, not too little. It had decent flavor, but there's something a little bit different about it, I guess. And I guess you could just say it's just their style, but because it's Little Caesars and everything, you wonder if it's, just mass-produced stuff. The crust was soft, even though we asked for it well done. That's consistent with what I've had with them before. Like we said, it was filled with cheese, stuffed crust. I'd say it got the job done in terms of a conduit for serving pizza. And I would compare this pizza to Antonio Brown because in the short term, I really enjoy the stats or what feelings this pizza gives me when I eat it. But the more I eat it and the longer I wait afterwards, I realize that it's probably made of really cheap materials that'll hurt me in the long run.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably true for a lot of those quick fucking application kind of places. So to recap, app good, pizza bad.
I think it's, in terms of what you pay for, I think it's a decent quick fix. I'd still take it over like Papa Murphy's and pretty much I would take it over any like frozen pizza that I've had in a long time.
Even DiGiorno?
Especially DiGiorno.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Wow, dude. Papa Murphy's and DiGiorno,
yeah.
I mean, it's good that we're different. Here we are, we're
You get the
existing.
two different pizza opinions.
Yeah. So I guess that recap was more for me. I was just being obnoxious.
But yeah, I'd rank it above last week's Papa Murphy's, which I also enjoyed. But the stuffed crust and the large amount of cheese and the extra sauce, those things do it for me. I mean, honestly, if I really need to, there's been times in my life where I just microwave some cheese, threw some pizza sauce on there, and some pepperonis, and that was pretty good. So if you get those things right, it helps compensate for some of the others.
Yeah,
in my book.
I think a makeshift pizza would have been better than that. But anyway, we should move on.
What's the game of the week this week, Zach?
So the game of the week is just pretty much the game that we are most excited to watch. For fantasy points, obviously, but also just as football fans, obviously other than watching our teams. And it's the Browns at Ravens. It's the early game. And just really want to see all their fantasy players just show up. I mean, you're going to play all of them pretty much. I mean, you're going to want to look at where everything's at with guys like Jarvis Landry, but I'd still, again, as a flex spot, I would definitely look to possibly play him in PPR. It's not, the best matchup, but it is a division game that makes it a little more exciting. But guys like Justice Hill, someone who I am bummed about that he hasn't gotten, his, enough touches or play, but, we shall see. Of course, in Dynasty, it is something that he's someone that I'm still excited about. Guys like Hollywood Brown, you're probably always, you're of course you're gonna play him. Can Jackson bounce back from last week? As far as as far as his actual play is concerned, I mean, he still had a pretty decent week.
Yeah, it wasn't horrible. He just had ridiculous week 1 and week 2.
Yeah.
And people thought, we fall into the fantasy thing and we think that, okay, it's just going to be like that every week. So that didn't happen. But still an okay week. What do you think? Do you think that the first 2 weeks were more of an anomaly and shouldn't really be expected on any kind of regular basis with him? Or do you think that last week was more of the anomaly and he should have higher points this week?
Yeah, I think it was a kind of a tough matchup going into Kansas City, even though their defense is just definitely, he's someone who I'm excited about, and I think you're pretty much going to see more of a week 1, week 2, more throughout the season. I mean, he has just that running upside, and I mean, geez, you've seen it to this point. And I mean, he is connecting with his receivers, with all those fucking tight ends. Shout out Mark Andrews.
Hayden Hurst.
Shout out Hayden Hurst, what I drafted
long
last
time
year.
love for Zach.
My IR.
Zach loves him
because I don't value the tight end so much. Anyway, just as far as our game of the week, something that we're excited to watch and hoping it has a decent fantasy production. for both teams.
You think a lot of people have been disappointed in Baker Mayfield? Do you think that what we've seen so far with him, similar question as we asked with Jackson, do you think that he is going to, or what he's done so far is what you should expect going forward, or do you think that he can bounce back and have some more points this week?
He'll be fine. I wouldn't be too worried about him. Honestly, he's a dynamic quarterback. He could be very accurate. I think they just have to find their way. But he's someone that was sort of surprised to see was dropped in a couple leagues. If it's a one quarterback league, and there's other options, I totally get that as far as streaming goes. But I'm not worried, honestly, if I were a Baker Mayfield owner. And would I play him this week? If I had other options to stream, no, just because they're playing in Baltimore.
Would you play Daniel Jones over him?
Would I play Daniel Jones over him? Yes, I would.
What about Jacoby Brissett?
Yes, I would.
Okay. So those are two guys that are or were on a lot of waiver wires that you'd play over Baker Mayfield. So I can understand why some people are dropping him. And as a Steelers fan, I've seen the Browns over the years. And so until they actually get better, I know there was obviously a lot of hype. I'm hesitant to play him.
No, yeah, you would be smart too. I would definitely wait and see, especially if you have other options.
All right, well, we're going to get into our next segment where we're going to talk about the top 5 offensive leaders in terms of yards. So starting with passing yards, Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City quarterback. Maybe you've heard of him. He is at the top of the list with 1,195 yards, so first to break 1,000. Number 2, our man. He's been keeping up. He's been at the top of the list all season so far. Andy Dalton in second place, quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals, 979 yards. Number 3, Philip Rivers, Chargers quarterback with 944, so not far behind him. And all the other guys in this list are pretty close to each other. This is a funny name that most people probably wouldn't expect. You can win a bet with someone. Case Keenum is in 4th place with 933 yards. Washington Redskins quarterback. I'm not even sure how many people know that. And rounding out the list, Matt Ryan, Zach's pick for who's going to have the most passing yards by the end of the season. Atlanta quarterback. They are the Falcons, and he has 928 yards. Any of those? So you think Case Keenum's going to finish out the season in the top 5?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, that's why this is fun to go over, because seeing names like that, you wouldn't think of it. And as far as fantasy starts, it does translate. Sure, you want touchdowns as well and all that shit, and he's throwing interceptions, fumbles, and blah, blah, blah. Pick sixes, ugh. But as far as yards, it's interesting to see his name on there for sure.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect it, and it's cool to talk about.
Yeah.
All right, so rushing yards, we got Dalvin Cook, who's been tearing it up, doing awesome. 375 yards, Minnesota Vikings running back. Christian McCaffrey, Carolina Panthers running back, and top pick for most leagues. He's got 318 yards. Marlon Mack, who I had hoped would do well, and I'm happy to see him up there. Number 3 for the Indianapolis Colts, 299 yards, so right there, almost breaking 300. A name that most people would expect here, Ezekiel Elliott, Dallas running back at 289 yards. And then finally Mark Ingram with the Ravens at 257 yards, so hopefully he gets injured as well. And then Justice Hill can take over, and he drops off this list.
Yeah, we're all about Justice Hill.
All about it. All right, receiving yards. I was a little surprised to see this name because he's always been up and down and mostly down. But Keenan Allen at the top of the list with 404 yards, Chargers wide receiver. Sammy Watkins is still kicking up there. I know he had that one huge week, which is kind of carrying him so far, but still having solid weeks otherwise.
How many yards does Sammy Watkins have?
He has 311 yards.
311?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
311, Sammy Watkins.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. You like 311?
Not particularly. They have a great drummer.
Yeah.
And I dig their posse vibe.
And their cruise line?
Yeah. I have a friend who, a couple friends. Shout out to those 311 friends.
Who would have thought?
Yeah. And they have a 311 cruise, and they went on this cruise. One of them in particular, and they actually have a beach towel. It's a really cool beach towel. I used it when I went to the Jersey Shore. Music is But the beach towel was, was definitely top tier.
Are there any other bands that have a cruise?
I think like
I'd thrown out like a Limp Bizkit tour.
Weezer had. I don't think anything with Limp Bizkit.
Not the band, a different kind of cruise.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
That's usually pretty whack. But that's definitely cool that they do that for their fans. So interesting. Sammy Watkins is a 311.
Yes, he is.
Super fan.
Another funny name, but he didn't do much this last week, but he's still up there. John Ross, wide receiver for the Bengals at 292 yards. Another familiar face, Odell Beckham at 288 yards with the Browns. And then our first non-wide receiver on the list, number 5, Travis Kelce, tight end for the Chiefs at 284 yards. So that's pretty cool.
That is really cool. It's really cool to see him. I mean, he's practically like a wide receiver. And I mean, you drafted him high enough where, he would be in that role or supplement that,
I probably could have had Travis Kelce instead of drafting Antonio Brown where I did.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, no shit, really?
Mm-hmm. Maybe. I mean, I guess he did go pretty early in most leagues, but
I think I got Antonio Brown in the 4th round. I'd have to look and see who I missed out
I'm pretty
on,
confident I got him in like the 2nd.
Damn, really? Wow.
Yeah.
You love him. That's right.
I wanted
Rice.
to honor Jerry.
Yeah, Jerry.
If things had gone the opposite way and I didn't draft him, and I could have, and Antonio Brown led the NFL in receiving yards, and Jerry Rice told me to do it and I didn't, I'd regret that.
Totally, dude. I mean, you gotta stay true to the. I hate to use this word, but to the GOAT.
Yeah, and I mean, I should have seen the whole fart controversy happen.
Yeah,
You know, that was coming from a mile away.
Yeah, the farts.
Yeah.
Motherfucker.
Double down on those farts. All right, let's get into our next segment, the Song of the Week. Zach, and just so you guys know, we have it linked on our Instagram and our link tree, so you can get a link to our Spotify playlist that has all the songs of the week from both Zach and I of the previous weeks leading up to this week. And what is your song of the week this week?
So my song of the week this week is a song by the band Ween, and the song is called Your Party. And if you're not familiar with Ween, they're one of these bands that they play all kinds of music. It's like they have almost to their albums certain themes of the style of music that they're going to play. They have a very like as far as lyrical content, very light. They have a funny sense of humor, but it's not like a joke fucking band or anything like that. They're very talented musicians, and but on this song, it's an awesome song. They talk about having a party, hosting a party. He mentions tricolor pastas. It's hilarious, but it's such a good song. And too, there's a saxophone part in this song that's actually fucking awesome. And it's, for me, hard to like saxophone in some rock songs where it doesn't sound cheesy. I love it for jazz music and other genres.
Katy Perry.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that, but it's fucking awesome, and it's a really groovy song. Something that I would suggest checking out. Well, I mean, of course, I would suggest checking it out, but it's an awesome song. It came out like 2007 or so. The song is "Your Party" by Ween.
And Ween is short for Weenus, correct?
Probably, yeah. I haven't dug that deep into it, but they're from Pennsylvania. They're a duo, and then they when they go on tour, they have other guys join them, and they're really, as far as their musicianship, it's awesome, and they have fucking awesome drumming, and especially live, really really great songwriters.
Maybe also short for Halloween.
Could be.
Or they don't know how to spell Queen.
Possibly. Could have been a...
If they're from Pennsylvania, maybe they're Steelers fans like me, and we could be friends. We could collaborate.
Possibly, yeah.
Make a outro song for this podcast or something.
You may want to hit up the Google machine and do some Ween research, but
yeah.
Definitely check out this song. It'll be on our playlists. What about you, John? What is your song of the week?
My song of the week is a song called My Own Grave by a band called As I Lay Dying. This, in my opinion, is metalcore at its best. Everything from the instrumentation to the song structure to the lyrics to the melodies, both vocally as well as the instruments. I just thoroughly enjoy the song quite a bit. has a good balance of energy and heaviness, and I can't recommend it enough if you're into that style of music. This is their album just came out recently, and so you can check out the whole album. Is really solid. The singer, got back from jail from trying to hire an undercover cop to murder his wife, and they're a Christian band, so you can really hear all those elements in the music.
Brutal.
Yeah.
That is brutal.
Yeah, and I think not enough people ask the question, maybe she deserved to die.
I mean, who knows? I mean, shit, you could get on the Google machine and check that out too. I mean, shit, As I Lay Dying, that's a pretty brutal backstory. I remember hearing that story, that he got busted by an undercover cop, and then for trying to get his wife killed, and then he went to jail, and that he's back in the band is, for me, it's I don't know, it's a hard sell. But I appreciate your commitment to that band and to liking it and to just sharing it. That's why I think this is cool, because it's a different style than for myself. But when you're really, again, you're dedicated to a band, you're so into it, and it's something that you dig. I think it's awesome that you're sharing it.
I sometimes wonder that if I ever run for president, people will dig up things that I've said on this podcast and use it against me.
Would you really want to run for president, though?
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, shit. Hopefully this As I Lay Dying take doesn't bury you.
Awesome. Well, we've been enjoying this recording format of doing things on Wednesday night and then releasing the podcast on Thursday. So as we close out, just wanted to remind you that next week to listen for us again. This podcast, again, should come out early Thursday morning, if not late Wednesday night. And so you should expect the same thing next week.
Excellent. And just to let you guys know, again, you can find me on Twitter at FFPizzaman and on Instagram at Fantasy Football Pizzeria. And you can find John everywhere at Life Never Lost. We have a quote, one that I chose that I fucking love. I love this quote. I'm going to play some hand drums over it while John reads you this amazing pizza quote. Thanks again, everyone, for listening. This is a lot of fun. It's such almost like a therapeutic thing to sit here, do this podcast, grow each week with it, pick up new things, talk to people about it. It's so cool to have this sort of platform in this environment. So just want to say a big shout out to everyone who is listening, has listened, and will continue to listen. We hope so. Thank you for that. I'm going to go ahead and get those hand drums over there.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what Zach said. We talk about things that we care about, from fantasy football to pizza to my personal issues to running for president and aspirations of that, despite me endorsing a band of a singer that tried to get his wife murdered and, asking the difficult question of maybe she deserved it. In any case, here is the quote. It's from Henry Rollins. Let me get a drum line here. Pizza makes me think that anything is possible. That's it. That's the whole quote. I'm going to hit stop.